By popular demand, I put a poll out there to see what you would all like to see more of, and the Mandalorian content won out. So, sticking true to the poll, here you go. I expect that everyone will have different opinions on this, and that is so awesome. One of the great things about Star Wars is that it resonates with each one of us differently. So I'm going to ask this question, and I'd like to see as many comments about it as I can. Even if you feel like you've repeated what others have said, it's your opinion, and your opinion matters to me, even if it differs from my own. Actually, I have two questions, and the first is, did you like The Mandalorian Season 3? And the second question is, why do you think we're seeing so much hate against it? Of course, I'll give my own opinion, but that shouldn't sway how you feel. It's just an opinion. Hello, everyone. I'm Gerald. Nope, not that Gerald. That's better. Okay, so for the first question, and at the risk of some of you running away screaming, I'd liked The Mandalorian Season 3. Like I said, that's just my opinion. Hang on, don't go anywhere yet. You have to hear my whole spiel, or spiel in German, before you condemn me to the Kessel Maelstrom. I did like The Mandalorian Season 3. Yes, there were some iffy moments in it, but it wasn't enough to ruin the show for me. And I have to admit, Jack Black could have been a lot worse. But let's take away the fact that Jack Black was even in it and just look at him as a character. I don't know, put Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on him or something if you have to. I want peaceful California. Wait, never mind. Don't put Arnold Schwarzenegger on Jack Black. For me, the character Jack Black was portraying actually showed the beginning cracks in the New Republic, taking someone who was once an imperial criminal and turning him so docile that he didn't even see his utopia being actually ran by a sadistic security chief shows a stark parallel to the way the pacifists of Mandalore lost their own control due to willing blindness. And that maybe the re-education tactics of the New Republic worked a little too well. I know a lot of people don't want it, but it also shows how it was easy for the First Order to rise without much resistance. This was also evident in these scenes showing how Dr. Pershing was hooked up to that weird mind-zapping thingy. Then that crazy lady turned it up to 11. And that brings me to my second point. A lot of people didn't like that we were left wondering about Dr. Pershing. This season didn't go back to him. Okay, that's fair, but look how long it took us to get the answer about the Zillo Beast. Not all story arcs wrap up nicely in the season they are introduced in. If they did, we would have no real need for more seasons. I actually feel like that one was a nitpick set up by people looking for something to get mad about. And our society is getting used to so many social platforms moving away from long-form videos because we're beginning to have the attention spans of a bag of pudding. Yep, I meant what I said. It seems resolutions need to be made in the first minute of an arc being introduced. I'm sorry, that isn't how stories are told, but like I said, that was probably just someone stirring up shit in order to further their own narrative of the show. But the biggest complaint I've heard is that The Mandalorian Season 3 moved away from the story of Grogu and Din Djarin and focused more on Bo-Katan Kryze. And that brings me to the second question. Why do you think there's so much hate for The Mandalorian Season 3? And again, stick around. I have a point to all this. From other videos I've made, when I predicted it would be either Boba Fett or Bo-Katan Kryze who would become the Mandalor, a lot of Star Wars fans freaked out over this. I got so many comments as to how wrong I was, that Din Djarin or Grogu would learn to wield the Darksaber and be the reluctant leader like King Arthur. My answer was no. Din Djarin is more of a Lancelot with the shiny armor and do-good attitude, and Grogu is a freaking toddler. But I was called a lot of names. Oh well, the point is that I was right, haha. I noticed they didn't return to the comments as they said they would. Okay, enough of that crap. But when Bo-Katan actually became the Mandalor, the internet broke with hate for The Mandalorian Season 3. There are reasons I saw it happening, though. Even from Season 1, I couldn't see Din Djarin as the leader of the Mandalorian people. When he got the Darksaber in Season 2, I said the Darksaber needed to be destroyed. Not because Din Djarin had it, but because of how divisive it had been since the Clone Wars. It caused more harm than good. But back to Season 1 of The Mandalorian. In the first scene, we see Din Djarin kicking ass. He captures his prey and collects the bounty. In the process, he kills a couple thugs in a bar. Cool stuff. It hooked so many of us into the show. I mean, opening a show with a Western-themed bar fight. Nice. And throughout Season 1, it's much of the same. Din Djarin kicking ass, but a lot of his victories were against lower thugs. When he was faced with larger adversaries with combat skills, he would come close to losing. Cara Dune got the better of Din Djarin, and Moff Gideon damn near killed him, if not for IG-11. In fact, had IG-11 not been in the battle to retrieve Baby Yoda, as he was known at the time, against the Nikto, he would have surely lost that fight too. Yeah, he was outnumbered and outgunned. Then there is the Jawa and the Mudhorn incident. The Jawas made a joke of Din Djarin, and if not for the child, aka Baby Yoda, aka Grogu, Din Djarin would have been killed by that beast. It's no doubt that Din Djarin is a badass and skilled in his fighting style and his weaponry, but for his age, he just seemed to lack experience against larger foes. Din Djarin had collected bounties on lower thugs for most of his career prior to meeting the client. In Season 2, there are a couple cases where Din Djarin is nearly defeated. And no, this isn't a bash fest against the Mandalorian bounty hunter. I do have a point to all this. In the ice caves, had the two New Republic pilots not shown up, Din Djarin and Grogu would have been killed by giant spiders. Then, when Din Djarin returns the frog lady to her husband, Din Djarin and Grogu are nearly killed by the Quarren fish dudes on the high sea. If not for Bo-Katan Kryze and the Night Owls, the Mandalorian series would have ended there. But he did have some victories up to this point. He, along with Cara Dune, the fish-faced guy with the ink problem, and Dit Greef Karga, took out an Imperial installation on Navarro. But at the end of the season was Din Djarin's biggest victory to date. He took on Moff Gideon in single combat and won. In turn, the Darksaber was his, but he didn't care about the Darksaber, nor did he care to lead the Mandalorian people. He only wanted his adoptive son back. Victory. But then we have the Book of Din Djarin. I mean the Book of Luke Skywalker. I mean the Book of Boba Fett. Some argue that he was the best part of that show. The other side of the argument is that Din Djarin taking up 2 episodes halted the development of Boba Fett. But in it, Din Djarin is back to his old ways. Yes, he defeated the Klatooinian butchers, but he damn near cut off his own leg with the Darksaber in the process, showing he didn't know how to wield it and couldn't connect with it. Where the Darksaber would have likely been someone else's primary weapon, Din Djarin used it as a backup. When he returned to his covert, the Children of the Watch, he was told he was a Mandalorian no more for removing his helmet. If he cared to be the leader of the Mandalorian people, he would have created an executive order that Mandalorians would be allowed to remove their helmet in certain situations. Instead, he just says, okay. Showing this developing Mandalorian was still a follower and didn't have a leader's tenacity. One could make a strong case that a lot of the trials Din Djarin either failed or came close to failing was part of the hero's journey, but his mindset never changed. He learned from his previous mistakes, but he still had no interest in leading. He only wanted to be a protective father. But then comes The Mandalorian Season 3. Dun dun dun! Din Djarin continues his quest to be accepted by his group, the Children of the Watch. When traversing the mines of Mandalore, he is beaten by a giant claw machine, and Bo-Katan Kryze comes to his rescue again, then giving him the out he needed from the responsibility of the Darksaber. He also gets beaten by Moff Gideon in their second face-off. This time, Gideon has better armor and is better equipped to fight the Beskar-wearing Mandalorian. And Bo-Katan steps in to save the day yet again. This has been happening since The Mandalorian Season 2, but this focus on Bo-Katan being the rightful leader of the Mandalorian clans ruffled quite a few feathers in the Star Wars fandom. Okay, that's putting it mildly. Star Wars fans were freaking outraged. How dare the show turn into a love parade for Bo-Katan? Never mind the fact that she was a Mandalorian royalty and her family had been the leaders of Mandalore for generations. She herself had even been the leader in the past. This hero's journey was supposed to be about this character we had never seen before, not this hardened combat veteran who helped free Mandalore from the likes of Maul and again from the traitorous Garth Saxon, the one Mandalorian who trusted a former Jedi and even became her friend, bringing in a new way of thinking between Mandalorians and light side Force users. But the title of the show is The Mandalorian. This is supposed to be about Din Djarin. Well, it still is. Had it not been for Din Djarin, the Mandalorian people would still be hiding in caves and stinky sewers throughout the galaxy. A main character doesn't have to become the leader in order to be about that character. In fact, the case can be made that if not for Din Djarin, the clans would have never came together at all. The same Star Wars fans who are mad that a bit of the focus shifted from Din Djarin to Bo-Katan Kryze are the same ones who thought the Book of Grogu, the Book of Boba Fett, was made better when the focus shifted from Boba Fett to Din Djarin. And that show was titled with Boba Fett's name in it. The Mandalorian, as this show is titled, is ambiguous. It isn't titled The Din Djarin Show. It isn't titled The Bounty Hunter Show. It's titled The Mandalorian, and that could be any number of those, or even all of them. But be that as it may, the show is still about Din Djarin. So I ask again, why is there so much hate for The Mandalorian Season 3? Because we didn't get a resolution for Dr. Pershing arc? Yet? Because it was Bo-Katan became the Mandalore? I think had Din Djarin suffered his losses yet still became the Mandalorian leader, there would be little issue. Or is it because Jack Black and Lizzo were in the show for about 10 minutes? Honestly, leave a comment because I really don't get it. To me, this entire season has been about Din Djarin growing beyond being a lone bounty hunter. He became a father and did everything he could to protect his child. And that theme continued throughout The Mandalorian Season 3. It was never about Din Djarin leading the Mandalorian people. The fact that he helped Bo-Katan Kryze return as the leader was but a chapter in his story. Many chapters of novels are not about the titular character. I say again, read any of the Thrawn novels. Sometimes there are multiple chapters where Thrawn isn't even mentioned. But I go back to what I was saying about instant gratification and the attention span of our society. We want resolutions now, not in future seasons, not even in the next episode. Most new Star Wars shows get hate before the first episode even airs. Then, when the first episode does air, the show gets even more hate. The story of Din Djarin and The Mandalorian isn't over. Only 24 chapters of it have ended. And we know we're getting at least 8 more chapters and a movie. Again, let me know what you think. What are the reasons for the hate for this season? I'd really like to know. Thank you for hanging out with me today. This has been Gerald, and I am a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember, this is the way, and a shared love for Star Wars is the only way.